So we're here to talk about the Death of Superman. Death of Superman Lives. What happened? And John, so I know a little bit about why you're doing this project, but Holly, I want to know, why are you, like, what drew you to kind of produce this and jumping in on this project?
Well, John's fascination is very infectious. So, and his obsessiveness about the concept in the first place, and all the artwork was exactly that. It was like, I'd seen the Polaroid of Nicolas Cage, and I hadn't really given it that much thought, but the more he uncovered, the more I was like, wow, this is really it goes deeper than what we thought. And as we started going through the process of making this, we had no idea the depths to which we would find the amazing stuff that we did. There was only a percentage of stuff that was out there on the internet, and John dug, and what he found was incredible. And I don't know, he's a pretty persuasive dude. So
we're also a couple, so it's like I would take that home with us and be like, we'd be talking about it, and I just sucked her into the plan. I was like, please help me make this.
The other thing is too that because we lived together and we're a couple too. I knew how much this was gripping him for a while. It just wouldn't leave him alone, and it was one of those things where, I was encouraging him, saying, this is a chance, it's a risk, but you should do it. You're passionate about it. There's no better thing to work on than the thing you're passionate about. So,
well, let's not go too extreme. Like, as far as I mean, like, making a documentary about it was literally a 3-month process. Like, from talking about it and like other friends, like, I was just interested as like it was like my little thing that I would do every couple months. I'd look for concept art. I'd search like Superman Lives concept art, try to find somebody from Facebook just posted this weird like rainbow suit, or like, so that's kind of my interest. But once I met Steve Johnson, the special effects makeup artist, that was in 2012. It was November of 2012. And then I talked with her about it and some of our friends at dinner after the Meltdown show. That's when people were like, you should make a documentary, and you should do it on Kickstarter. It was other people suggesting it to me, and I was like, nah, I direct cartoons. I'm doing other stuff. And then that's when the idea became like, I'm the only dude who's going to make this. No one else wants to make something. I think it would be awesome. And I'd talk to other people and be like, don't. Yeah.
The seed was planted. Once our friends were like, you should do Kickstarter. He'd already had a successful Kickstarter, so he was like, wow, maybe this is possible? I don't know. I mean, I'm not speaking for you, but it was like, I'm sure that was part of the...
Well, to me, it was just to do something different. And like, I'd been doing cartoons for a while, and I just did a successful Kickstarter. I raised $175,000 to make a short cartoon. So I was like, I feel like I tuned in. I trust my nerd gut, So I was like, this is something that I think I want to make, and I think if I went out and crowdsourced it, all my other friends would be like, don't do it. That's a goofy idea. Why don't you do something else? And I was like, because it would be something different. And not only for me as a director to try something different, to explore something, to make a documentary, to try doing something that I'm not used to jump out a little bit on the cliff a bit, But it also just felt like, wow, no one else is going to do this, and it's a risk. I like taking risks, so that's one of the reasons I jumped into doing the Kickstarter.
The other thing is, too, was that, and it still happens every single time we do a convention or we do a screening, so many people come up to us and say, I've been doing that, too. I've been collecting the art from Superman Lives for so many years. And it's like, wow, you weren't alone at all in that. So it's kind of cool that once we started that Kickstarter, people were going, I'm into this so hard, and still to this day, they're like, we had no idea how much was out there. Thank you for this documentary.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Of course, it took way longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, it almost seems like you're almost like on that X-Files, like you're Mulder, you're Scully, and he's convinced you to go in there, and you're digging down into the rabbit hole to find out.
Sometimes, yeah.
It's
a good metaphor.
I guess the other thing too that gets me is that you kind of living that nerd dream of being able to dig deep into, a film, even if it's a film that didn't come out, like the nerd culture. You get to do what every fan wants to, go into and talk to people how these films come about. So can you talk a little bit how did that feel to actually get in there and just keep learning all this new stuff?
Well, it felt pretty good, especially, once we started interviewing some of the concept artists who wanted to talk to us. A lot of the other concept artists declined at first because we hadn't talked to Tim Burton. It's like trying to talk to somebody's boss, but not talk to the boss, talk to the person employed. Let me talk to you about some deep, weird stuff that happened 15 years ago, this thing that nobody wants to talk about. Have you talked to him yet? No, he hasn't talked. Well, wait till you talk to him first, then come back to me. So, yeah, well, you get it, though, because it's like, look, it's like that's how they make their living. So it's like, you don't want to step on people's toes. So, but for me, like, really like when we got to see that Tim Burton gave us the keys to like the Raiders of the Lost Ark. We've talked about this. Like it's like unlocking that thing, and then you're like, it's literally like, oh my God, look at all this, and then you can only be in this area. Yeah, and we're like opening this. That's in the movie when I'm opening that binder with a Superman S. That's real. I didn't make that. That's like a real thing with all that art in. I'm like, this is fucking insane, you know. So we like that's the crazy thing and the fun thing for at least for me. Like like nerds are like, well, I happen to know this one thing, and this information is only 5 people know about this. It's like that weird thing when we first saw like a 45-minute. Nicolas Cage Tim Burton costume test footage, which we have a small amount of that footage is in the film, but when we saw enough of it, but it's like it was so amazing where it's like really it kind of validated all of our feelings about it. And this was like over a year and a half into the production of the film already, and then it was like all this stuff that we had already kind of uncovered all became like not only true and factful, then we got the ILM footage, and then we got the actual artwork, and it took like 2 days to actually shoot it.
It was like if you see the film, it's like being a fly on the wall. Like you're in there with Tim Burton and Nicolas Cage while they're working it out, And so when we saw that footage, it was like, oh my God, can you believe what we're actually witnessing right now? Like it was it was an idea, it was a concept in our own brains at that point. Then to actually see them, it's like this really was going to happen. This was really going to happen, and they were into it. To
hear their ideas, the exploration of their ideas of what Nick wanted to do with the Clark Kent character, and what he wanted to do with the Superman character, and what Tim wanted. Like, what does the cape mean? What does this mean? And they really put a lot of thought into it, and how it fit in with Krypton, and how Brainiac fit in. What were the motivations? It's like all these things that just. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in Superman Lives or in any other film since then. This would have been a very cool cosmic fairy tale version of Superman. And I think it's something that especially comic book readers would have really dug because Nick Cage's interpretation of Superman is, of course, him as an alien hiding the fact that he's Clark Kent, and then Clark Kent is also hiding the fact that he's an alien. It's like this whole deeper kind of empathy that you would have for the character of being the outcast, being the alien, being the person that nobody really can get too close to. And I think a lot of comic book readers have always felt that way because as a comic book fan, you're like in this very small minority of people who enjoy comic books. A lot of other people are like, it's for children. It's like you don't actually know anything, motherfucker. If you ever read this shit, you would be.
It's way more serious than that.
Yeah, it's way more serious, but like. So I'm just saying, it's like I think that would have crossed over. No one really the Superman floating in the sky, the God Superman. It's harder to get, feel like you can connect with him. And I think Nick and Tim were going to ground him in such a way that not only just the general audience would have actually connected with Superman. I think it would have been the general audience.
So that's the interesting thing. So I think a lot of times when people hear Superman Lives, they see that image of that concept art of Nick Cage in the suit, and it's kind of weird because he looks like he's on the cover. He's like Superman on the cover of like a fantasy romance novel, and you had the image like, I don't know if I'm liking that, but I guess, and it's something that you see today in films and the way that internet is in with these films is you're seeing basically how sausage is being made, and you're not seeing a finished product, but you're already kind of judging it off of that. Yes. I think a lot of us have done that. So, like,
for years.
Yeah. So going in there and actually seeing what their concepts are, it kind of gives you a different appreciation for it, right?
Most definitely. And being a filmmaker myself, and like knowing how the concept and the actual stages of production work, I knew there was a lot more there. I just didn't know how much. So it was fantastic to get this treasure trove of amazing, beautiful concept art. And really, it's like exciting to be able to share it with everybody because when you see the film, you're going to feel that way.
Yeah, one of the other things we haven't touched upon not too much in interviews, and one of the things I would have loved to have seen is the menagerie, which is it would have been an opportunity for people like Steve Johnson and the other special effects artists to make. It was Brainiac was bringing all of these specimens to Earth. And it would have been a skull ship filled with monsters. When have you ever seen anything like that in any Superman movie ever? I mean, yes, it sounds out there, but God damn it, I want to see it.
It sounds like the ship from Predator, where it has all the skulls in there. And you're looking at them like, wait, from Predator 2, hey, what's that creature over there? I want to see that, I know, like I said, you did an interview with a close friend of mine, Jay from the Nerdopocalypse, and you weren't finished with the film then, and one of the things you said that you were still working on at the time was finishing up some animation because you were going to animate some of the scenes that they had described in there.
Yeah.
So can you tell me how that was? Again, it feels like digging into that, being that's like a fan's dream to go in there now and try to animate some of the scenes from an actual movie about Superman. So,
well, I had to actually play really smart because it's like don't have the budget to be able to pull off the kind of stuff that $1 million films do. I had to do it within the fair use doctrines, and it's like I just can't animate my own Superman movie. I don't own the character. So it's like, and also I wanted to be able to take risks as an artist. I was like, hey, this scene will be like, we're going to do this like a Ray Harryhausen. Doomsday is going to be stop motion animated. This other one is going to be like almost like the Batman animated series look, but only Superman with Nick Cage's face. So it's like, so the polar bears, we're going to have a little more fun and make it, more comedic, and animate that. Or like we're going to do a live action scene of like of Superman like having dinner with Lois Lane and like he's going to propose to her and then he's going to freak out and fly away. So it was like all these, or Brainiac and Superman with his silver S are going to confront each other at the end. It's sort of like I wanted to have fun being able to have like these short things, these little recreation scenes. And ultimately we did, and they all came together really close towards the end of the film because as we're editing, you don't ever want to be like, let's, especially with our tiny budget, let's spend $5,000 doing this thing, and then, we're going to cut it.
One little note about one of the recreation scenes that I want to throw out there. Our suit guy, the guy who ended up being Superman in our film in the recreation scenes, is a master suit designer, and he tracked down the Superman Lives belt, the original Superman Lives belt, so he made a cast of it, and that is actually the same thing that Nicolas Cage would have worn in the film if it had gone through.
So, all right, so I want to switch topics a little bit to end this. I have to ask this because I also do a horror show.
Sure.
So I have to ask about, W in ABCs of Death. So, yes, the question I have to ask is, simply, what the fuck? No, seriously, how much fun? Can you just talk about a little bit about that process of doing that? Like,
totally.
Was it random getting W, or did you pick it? Like, just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, like I'm a gutsy dude, and I'll just communicate with people right off the bat. And I just wrote to the guys who are making ABCs of Death, and I was like, "Hey, I'm a director, and I don't know if you're fully filled, if your alphabet is filled up, but I'm throwing my name into the hat." And they responded very enthusiastically, like, "We are totally full, but we love what you do. We'll put you in the next one if we make another one." Cut to 5 months later, they're like, "One of our directors dropped out. You are at the top of the list. We have the letter W. That's what's available." Come up with some concepts for W. So I was like, all right, W. W is for Wake. It's a little girl, and she just has to go see her grandma, and she's dead. So I wrote a couple of these different concepts out. W is for werewolf. W is for witch. And I was like, as I kept doing that, I just started coming up with some insane ones. And then that's what W is for walrus. So I started writing all these crazy ones out, and I was like, that's kind of like, that should be what it's about, is me trying to come up with these ideas, and then some kind of weird mutagenetic like gas mist contrail drops down on everybody, and everybody's inside visions come to life, and madness ensues. So that's literally, so I wrote that one out as like a throwaway, like, this is the crazy one, and that's the one that they went for.
And I got my eyeball ripped out in it.
Yeah.
By clowns.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the W is for what the fuck, or W is for WTF. All the filmmakers are given a very small budget, so we didn't have a lot of money to do things with. So it was like, obviously, like, I have a lot of talented friends in the special effects industry. I've got friends who are actors and actresses, so I was like, I was able to pull in favors and like, hey, can you just come and help me make this thing? And I was very, very, very happy with the way Ant Timpson and Tim League from Draft House, they let us have total freedom. They had total freedom. The one thing is that it was like, mine was like 15. They were like, can you cut this 15 seconds out? Like, I was like, trimmed it down a little bit, and I was like, totally cool. So I was like, everything that I did is exactly what I wanted to do, and it's totally nuts.
The other thing is that all of Jon's friends, and my friends too, our mutual friends, are down for whatever. So they were just like, it worked. W for whatever. Exactly. No, but they were all like, all right, clowns, yeah. Chemtrails, sure. And everybody's jumped in and just wanted to be a part of this weirdness.
Yeah.
So
It's called ABCs of Death. You can watch it for free on Netflix, but you can't watch our movie, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, unless you go to www.tdoslwh.com. That's where you can get the Blu-ray, that's where you can get the DVD or the digital download, and the Super Pack has 10 extra hours. If you like the movie, you can order the Super Pack, which is also on the Blu-ray, just full of interviews, extra features. It was a lot of fun getting all this stuff prepared.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this, and I hope everybody checks that out.